Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. So, you would remember that we had finished verses 104 to 121. We had discussed some of the implications of tafsir issues in this section, and today, inshallah, we'll see how we will literally and idiomatically translate this section. Just to give you this reminder once again that it would be very helpful for you if you note down the vocabulary during this translation and you attempt to translate these verses yourself as well. And it is not that difficult if you know the vocabulary and if you know the sense which a person generally knows when he or she is going through these verses with the vocabulary and with the help of some of the hints that I do tell you. And one of the most important things when you do this translation is to always translate the alif lam, the article alif lam, which is the definite article. It is generally of two genres, it is of two categories. One category relates to the genus, I would say, or to the genre of the article on which that suffix is affixed. For example, the word ash-shajar has the word alif lam on it. The word shajar means tree. So when we say ash-shajar, it could mean a particular tree, which would mean that this alif lam is of ahad, and it could mean any tree. In that case, we would say that this alif lam is of jins or genre. So whenever you have that alif lam affixed to various nouns, because alif lam is always affixed on nouns or adjectives, it doesn't come on verbs. You can note this down. It never comes on particles. It never comes on verbs. It always comes on nouns, and of course one form of nouns is adjectives. So it will only come on these, and in particular that you could note in these translations are words like al-mushrikun, al-zalimun, al-kafirun, so al-fasiqun. So all these have alif lam affixed to them. So every time you translate, you need to decide whether this is of a category that is being spoken of, which means that all types of people are included, or it refers to a specific category in the whole category. It's like a subset in that category. So in case it is a subset, then this is called the alif lam of ahad. And you'll find this copiously being used in the Quran, referring to a particular category of the whole asset that is being referred to. And do remember that in this case, the easiest way to find out is that you replace the word alif lam or the particle alif lam by a demonstrative pronoun like haza or hazihi or tilka, which means that this or that. So this or that, if you replace that alif lam with this or that or these or those, then this will always be the alif lam of ahad. So therefore, if you translate for example, a verse which has al-kafirun as God is not going to reward kafirun. So either it would be all kafirun or it would be these kafirun. So whenever there is the word haza or hazihi or ulaika or tilka, which you can replace with that alif lam, it is in most cases, I'm not just a rule of thumb, but in most cases it will always be of ahad because it is going to refer to a particular category. So this is very important in this case, because if you realize that the specifics of the Quran, the stylistics in which the Quran is embedded, the style of the Quran, the way the verses are constructed, this article is of supreme importance to be translated. Otherwise, a lot of specific verses which relate to the era of the Prophet, in particular verses which relate to Itmamul Hujjah, which relate to the punishment of apostasy, which relate to the punishment of disbelief, which relate to the punishment of polytheism. All of these verses have that specific nature, and that specific nature, if someone asks us, how do you know that these verses are of specific nature, then the answer would be that it is through this alif lam of ahad, or this specific or specifying alif lam, through which we are able to know. So let's start with today's lesson, and as I said, we will start off with verses 104 onwards and try to literally and idiomatically translate. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la taqulu ra'ina wa qulu unzurna wasma'u walil kafirina azabun alim. So immediately as you look at this verse, the first thing that should strike you is that there is an alif lam affixed to the word al-kafirin. So you have to fix this in your mind that whatever you do with the translation, you'll have to decide whether it is referring to all the kafirs or it is referring to a particular category. So let's start off. Ya ayyuhal lazina. Ya ayyuha means O you. Al-lazina, those. Amanu, profess faith, who have accepted faith. La, do not. Taqulu, you say. Ra'ina, give us concession or pardon us. Ra'ina, pardon us. Wa, and. Qulu, say. Unzurna, give us concession. So the Ra'ina and Unzurna, they are synonymous. They have the same meaning. So what the Quran is telling us here, or the believers in fact, is that just change the word. Instead of saying Ra'ina, say Unzurna. Wasma'u, wa is and, isma'u is listen intently or listen carefully. So basically the word is isma'u, but when you read it by joining it with the letter waw, so then the joint pronunciation would be wasma'u. So if you don't read it by this joint, in this joint manner, it will be wa isma'u. But when you read it by joining the two words, then it would be wasma'u. So the translation would be, O you who believe. O those who believe. O those who believe. La, don't. Taqulu, you say. Ra'ina, the word, don't say the word ra'ina. In fact, waqulu, say unzurna. So one thing that you can note here is that the waw here, instantly when you translate it the way that I have, strikes you that here it means but. It doesn't mean and. So when I say this in Arabic, I would say lakinna or lakin, which means don't say this but say this. So you can make this note in your own mind as well, that it's not always that the word waw is used as a copulative particle to connote and. It's also used in several other meanings, and I'm going to, inshallah, as we go along, point out those meanings. But one apparent meaning here is that it is also used as but. So the sense is, do not say ra'ina, but say unzurna. So if I translated it, do not say ra'ina and say unzurna, it will not make any sense. I mean, of course, when the believers are being told that don't say this word, but say this word, that is how the Almighty speaks. So you can clearly see that how the word waw, I mean, it automatically takes our mind to the fact that here the waw is not in the same meaning that we are generally used to, which is and. Here it actually means but. So yes, there are other words in Arabic which connote the word but, and they are also used. For example, the word lakinna is exactly in this sense. But the Quran does not always use the word lakinna, because the word waw is when the sense is conveyed the way it is here, then it uses a simple word all the time as well. So waqulu would mean but you say. Unzurna. Wasma'u would mean listen intently. Wa, and. Le, for. Al-kafirin, these disbelievers. Azabun, punishment. Aleem, dreadful. So a couple of things that I'd like to again point out here in the translation is that whenever there is this indefinite noun that you have before you, which is a nakara, which means like the word azabun, aleemun. So although there is this attribute of aleem which qualifies the word azab, but here, as you can clearly see, the precedence of the word lil kafirin over azabun aleem adds a stress to it. So normally it would be azabun aleem lil kafirin or al azabun aleem lil kafirin, but walil kafirin azabun aleem is actually preposing a certain word so that a stress can be added, and that stress would be, and yes, for these disbelievers there is a woeful or dreadful punishment. So walil kafirina azabun aleem, for these disbelievers there is a woeful or a dreadful punishment. Azab is punishment, aleem is dreadful. Ma is not. Again, the word ma, like the word wow, is also used in different meanings. Just as it is used as a particle of negation, like the way it is here, ma is no or not. It is also used as a demonstrative particle, so that you can translate it as that, or which is called ma of demonstration or ma of mausula. So, but here, of course, it is not in that technical sense. So, it's like a negative particle which says ma, not. Yawaddu, yawaddu means like. Allazina, those who. Kafaru, disbelieved. Min, from among. Ahlil kitab, people of the book. So, idiomatically, you can say that those who disbelieved do not like, or in fact, I can say, I can retranslate it as those who have disbelieved from among the people of the book. So, min ahlil kitab is basically something which qualifies kafaru. So, the meaning would be that those who have disbelieved do not like, ma, not, yawaddu, like, allazina, those who, kafaru, disbelieved from among the people of the book. So, those who have disbelieved from among the people of the book do not like. What do they not like is now coming after. In fact, there is another noun which is adding to the people of the book, and that is walal mushrikeen. So, neither those who have disbelieved from among the people of the book, nor the al-mushrikeen. And now once again you're faced with the same ordeal, the word alif lam on the word mushrikeen, referring, for example, to the idolaters of Arabia, because they were the people who said that yes, we believe that God is the creator, but at the same time we do think that he has partners. So because they were they self-confessed in polytheism, that is why the Quran gave them this noun, al-mushrikun. And never in the Quran you'll find, never at any place, that the people of the book are called mushrikun. And which is something of an eye-opener for everyone. Even though the people of the book, they committed shirk, for example, they regarded Uzair, the Jews regarded Uzair, Jews of Arabia regarded Uzair to be the son of God, and the Christians regarded Jesus to be the son of God. In spite of that, the Quran at no place at all has said that these are mushriks, because they themselves claim to be monotheists, and they actually try to interpret their own polytheism in a way that they would say that this is just a manifestation of monotheism, and the Godhead, that it would say, is split into three, and the whole issue of Trinity that they would present, they say it is a way of explaining monotheism. So yes, the Quran did not agree with them, but it went along with their own interpretation that, okay, if you call yourself to be monotheists, then we will not call you polytheists. This is a very important lesson to be learned from the Quran. So at no place in the Quran are the people of the book ever called mushrik, because they never said that they are mushriks. On the other hand, the idolaters of Arabia, they called themselves mushrik. They said, yes, we believe in more than one God. So therefore, they were called mushrik. And here the word al-mushrikun with the article alif lam, it refers to just the idolaters of Arabia. So for example, Hindus who also, not all Hindus, but many Hindus, many sects amongst Hindus, they proclaim to be of the same genre. They say, yes, that we believe in more than one God. So the word al-mushrikun, the way it is used here, is not applied to the Hindus, for example, because there was no Hindu in Arabia at that time. So therefore, if someone reads this verse and says that, well, other idolaters besides those that are found in Arabia are also implied here, so he would be making a mistake. And that is precisely why the article alif lam is important. Otherwise, if you translate it as all mushrikun, then all sorts of mushrikun, whether they live in Arabia, whether they live outside of Arabia, wherever they live, they'll stand included in this. And that would be a grave mistake. And this is one of the mistakes that you'll see is abounding in the translations of many of our scholars, because they don't make this distinction that the idolaters that are being discussed in the Quran are not all types of idolaters, or not all idolaters living in all parts of the world, but those idolaters who lived in Arabia, to whom the Prophet was sent. In fact, he came from them, he belonged to the Ishmaelites, he was from among them, and he actually warned them of this behavior. So the sense would be that those among the people of the book who have denied, and these mushrikun, will not like. What will they not like? That. Yunazzala, revealed to you. Revealed, sorry, not revealed, revealed to you, just revealed. Alaykum, upon you. Min, from. Khair, good. Min, from. Rabbikum, your Lord. So, idiomatically we can say that neither those who have denied from among the people of the book nor these idolaters would like that some good is revealed to you from your Lord. So khair is good, and yunazzal alaykum min khairin, that something good is revealed to you from your Lord. And then Wallahu yakhtassu bi rahmatihi man yasha. Wa, and Allah is God. Yakhtassu, chooses or selects. Bi rahmatihi, for be is for, rahma is mercy, he is his. So God chooses for his mercy man yasha, whoever he wants, whomever he wants. Wallahu, wa, and Allah is Allah. Zu fazlin, zu fazl means one who is blessed. Al-Azim, who is great, who is exalted. So again, something that you need to understand besides the translation, that although the Quran does not always expand on what its laws are at all places, but several other places it expands on its laws. So when it says Wallahu yakhtassu bi rahmatihi man yasha, that God selects for his purpose, for his mercy, whomsoever he chooses. It means that God, according to his wisdom, according to his knowledge, does so. He chooses people for mercy, for his mercy, on the basis of his knowledge. Why? Because Wallahu zul fazlil azim, God is blessed, he is exalted. Okay, let's go on to the next part. So, ma nansakh min ayatin aw nunsiha na'ti bi khayrin minha aw mithliha. Ma is again, just as in the previous slide, you can see ma yavaddul lazina kafaru. So ma is a particle of negation. So just as it is used as a particle of negation, it is called ma nafiya in Arabic, which means it negates something. In a similar way, here also ma nansakh, the ma here is also that of negation. So it says ma nansakh, not nansakh means abrogate. So or we abrogate. In fact, nansakh means we abrogate, and ma nansakh mean we do not abrogate. Min, from, ayatin, a verse, aw, or. So aw is or, nunseha, cause to forget, and ha is referring to ayah. So nunseha, cause it to forget. Na'ti, and this is the answer towards ma, na'ti, we bring forth, bi khairim, na'ti bi khairim, something better, minha, from it, aw, or, misliha, misl means equal, ha, to it. So idiomatically we can say that we do not abrogate a verse or have it forgotten. So the Almighty is saying that neither we abrogate a verse nor we have a verse forgotten, except that we bring in place of it, na'ti means we bring, bi khairim minha, something which is better to it, aw misliha, or equal to it. Misl is equal, khair is better. So alam is alam. So is a question. So is, lam is again a particle of negation. So two things that you might note here is that ma and lam both are particles of negation. The difference is that there is an emphasis in the word lam as compared to ma. So lam has more emphasis in negation than a simple ma. Just a small thing that you can note, that wherever you come across lam instead of ma, both of them of course are used as particles of negation, but lam has more stress in it. So alam ta'alam would mean is not, ta'alam is you know, alam ta'alam, you know. So does not you know or do not you know, and what is that? Anna is that. Allah. Okay, one small thing that I'd like to point out here. It's not a grammatical thing that I'd like to point out here. It's just for your own notes, so that in future you become accustomed to it. And that is, whenever there is the word anna used, whenever there is a word anna, the noun following the word anna will always be in the accusative. It will have a nasab, it will have a zabar, in other words. So wherever there is an anna, immediately following the anna, the noun which follows anna will always be in the accusative form. It will always have the zabar or the nasab on it. So it will never be annallahu, it will never be annallahi. It will always, whatever the word, maybe the word kitab is used, annal kitaba, annal rijala, annallaha. Every noun after anna will be in the accusative sense, the accusative case. Okay. Anna, that, Allah, God, ala, on, kulli, every, shay, thing, qadir, powerful. So, do you not know that God is powerful over everything, meaning that God has power over everything? And then you can see that exactly the same words are repeated. The first 4 words of the previous verse are repeated again, and it is said, Alam ta'lam annallah, do you not know annallah, that God, lahu, la is for, who is him. For him, mulk is kingdom. As-samawat is the plural of sama. The sama is sky, and samawat is the plural. So, alam ta'lam annallaha lahu mulkus samawat. Do you not know that the dominion or the kingdom of the heavens or of the skies were and al-ard and the earth. Wa ma lakum. Wa and ma is again particle of negation. Ma is not. Lakum, for you. Min dunillah, except for God. Min dunillah is one construction which means except for God. Min, from, wali is helper or guardian. Wa and la is not. Nasir is helper. So the translation would be that do you not know that the kingdom, that the dominion, so mulkus samawat is dominion. Do you not know that the kingdom of the samawat and the ard, whenever you see this expression samawat and ard, you'll find this abundantly being cited in the Quran. Lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. You'll always find the word sama in the plural, which is samawat, and you'll always find the word ard, which is earth, always in the singular. Because, of course, the earth that we know is the earth on we live. And the samawat that we know are, of course, information being given by us to God that yes, there are 7 heavens and you're witnessing one of them. So He is the virtually the ruler of all that you know, all that you can see, or all that you may come across. So as-samawati wal ard in fact refers to the kingdom of God, the whole dominion of God. So lahu mulkus samawati wal ard, that to Him belongs the dominions of the heavens and the earth, and there is no one except God who is your protector or your helper. So ma lakum min dunillahi, ma lakum is, there is no, ma is not, wa is and, lakum is for you. So there is no one for you, min dunillahi is except for God. So there is no one for you except for God, min waliyin. So this is a construction in which you can say that you can easily translate it as a guardian. So min waliyin is a guardian. So the word min is actually, you can disregard it for the moment, but it has a special purpose here as well, which as we go along I'll explain more. But for all practical purposes, you can translate this word as a protector, as a guardian. So wali is guardian or friend. All these words, all these meanings are encompassed. So the word wali is used at several places in the Quran. For example, Allahu waliyul lazina amanu, which says that God is a friend. God is a friend to the believers. And here I'd like to pause and also point this out, that isn't this a super assurance to all of us? We find this word being copiously used in the Quran, that God is our friend. God is the friend of the believers. Allahu waliyul lazina amanu. And here again it says that there is no one except God who is your real friend and your real helper. It gives us immense assurance, and it also actually it severs those disconnect that we might have with God. At times, we think that God is way beyond us. He's aloof. We have no access to Him. But look what He has Himself said about Himself. He says that He is a friend to the believers, and He is their helper. So this was just a point that I wanted to make besides the translations. For ma lakum min dunillahi min waliyyin wala nasir. So there is no one for you except God, who is your helper and your friend. Okay, let's move on. أم تريدون أن تسألوا رسولكم كما سئل موسى من قبل ومن يتبدل الكفر بالإيمان فقد ضل سواء السبيل. Is again a question. I mean, just as the word remember the word alam ta'lam. So just as is like a interrogative particle. Interrogative particle means a particle which is meant to ask a question. So just as is a question making a question inducing article or particle, in a very similar way, is also of the same nature. So and means it's the sentence is now asking a question. Is turiduna, do you want? Turiduna means you want. An again is that, and that is explained ahead. Tas'alu, you ask. Rasulakum, your messenger. So I have been pointing this out repeatedly that the word kum is for the people who are standing right in front of you in plural. So the kum is actually a plural. So when there are several people before you, you'll say Rasulakum. And when there is just one person, you say Rasulak. So if just a single word ka, that would mean your messenger, which is you, one person. But when I say Rasulakum, kum it signifies several people. So am turiduna an tas'alu Rasulakum would mean, do you want that you ask your Rasul, your messenger, kama the way, in a similar way. Su'ila is was asked, Moses, min qabl, before this. So the question or the idiomatic translation would be that am turiduna an tasalu, that do you want to ask from your Rasul what was asked from Moses before? I mean, would you like to ask the same questions to your own messenger the way those questions or similar questions were asked from Moses? And we already referred and discussed this, that it actually means the way they would ask God to be seen directly and the way they harassed Moses in various ways to ask questions from God. So once again, you remember it is here that these believers and people who are standing at the back of the Quraysh and trying to induce them to certain other questions, they are being scolded. In fact, they are being indirectly told that would you like to ask the same questions to your messenger the way such questions were asked from Moses? Obviously referring to the fact that such silly questions, such stupid questions, such unwarranted questions, would you like to ask the same questions? So it's like a small rebuke, and you can feel that rebuke in these verses. Am turiduna an tasalu, would you like to ask the same questions? And then وَمَن يَتَبَدَّلِ الْكُفْرَ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ and man, he who yatabaddala, exchanges, al-kufr, disbelief, bil-iman, with belief, faqad is therefore, dhalla, went astray, sawa as-sabil, from the straight path. So he who exchanged disbelief, he who exchanged belief with disbelief, and of course here it would mean he who gave more weight, he who preferred disbelief over belief. About this attitude, the Quran says, فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. Such a person, such people have lost their way, they have strayed from the straight path. So zalla is to lose, is like saying to lose one's way. So faqad dhalla means they lost themselves. Sawa as-sabil, the straight path. Sawa is straight, sabil is path. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُم مِّن بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِندِ أَنفُسِهِمْ مِّن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْحَقُّ. Wadda is want. And you can see if you just look back, the word مَا يَوَدُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَلَا الْمُشْرِكِينَ. I'm just going to go back to the first or second slide. Just look here. It says مَا يَوَدُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Ma yavaddu, verse 105, the second word. Remember yavad, ma yavaddu. So in Arabic, if you just have that sound saved up here, you'll immediately see something very similar that I'm just going to come across as we translate. Wadda. So you see, previously you had yavaddu and now you have vadda. It's right here. So wadda is exactly the same as yavaddu. The only thing is that wadda is the past tense and yavaddu is the muzare or the present tense. So what I'm trying to point out here is that whenever you strike these similar words with some difference, there is this root which is also common. So vadda, yavaddu basically are the same. The only thing is the construction in which the nature of the word from the past tense, or for example, if it is not to the past tense, it could be the present tense, that is to be noted. So I'm not saying that you learn this by heart. What I'm saying is that just try to connect words when you read them again, because when you come across those words again, they might appear with some addition. For example, the word yavaddu was there in the past, and in some of the previous verses, in verse 105 to be precise. And now you have vadda. So there is no ya here, and it's just being replaced by vadda. So it should make you connect the two, that they must be similar. So yavaddu means like. So vadda also means liked. I mean, the only difference is that was more of a present tense and future tense, and this is a past tense. So vadda kathiru min ahlil kitab would mean, kathir is a lot, min ahlil kitab from among the people of the book. So like the people of the book, a lot from the people of the book liked. That would be the translation. A lot of the people of the book, they would like. What would they like? Law yuraddunakum min ba'di imanikum kuffara. That they turn you. Law is that is if. If yuraddunakum, they turn you back. Min ba'di imanikum, after your faith. Min ba'd is after. Imanikum is your faith. And what do they do? Disbelief. So a lot of the people of the book would like that you turn back to disbelief. Min ba'di imanikum kuffara. After your belief, you turn back into kafir. And the word kuffar is basically the plural of kafir. So translation would be that many of the people of the book, what do they like? They like that you return, law yurudunakum, that you return, min ba'di imanikum, after your faith, to become disbelievers. So many of them think that, well, now that you have converted, but they would like you to convert back. So this is what is meant in their hearts. And what is the reason for that? Hasadan min indi anfusihim. Hasadan is jealousy. Hasadan is jealousy. Min indi anfusihim would mean from their own selves. From their own selves. Min ba'di ma. Min ba'd is after. Ma is that. Tabayyana becomes evident. La for whom, them, al-haq, the truth. So a lot of the people of the book would desire that after your faith, you return to become disbelievers because they are jealous of you. Hasadam min indi anfusihim. They have this jealousy from their own selves towards them. After it has become what the truth is, after it is evident what the truth is, min ba'di ma tabayyana. Tabayyana is becomes evident. Lahumul haq, to them the truth. So this is something which I already pointed out earlier on, that this was the gravest crime of these people. That jealousy, out of jealousy, they wanted believers to turn back to disbelief out of this jealousy. And this was not out of any other thing except the fact that they knew what the truth was. Min ba'di ma tabayyana lahumul haq. The truth had become evident to them. They were fully aware of the truth. In spite of that, because of jealousy, they wished that you people who have now become Muslims or believers should return to disbelief. And now look what the Prophet is told. And of course the believers too. Farfu. Therefore, ignore them. Wasfahu. Forgive them. Hatta. Until. Ya'ti Allahu. God brings. Bi amrihi. His directive. Inna Allaha ala kulli shayin qadir. Inna is indeed, Allah is God. Remember I said that inna and anna are two words that whichever word follows after that will always be in the accusative, which means that it will always have a nasab or a zabar, as you can see here. So whether it's anna or whether it's inna, this will be the same. But not with in and an. It is always with anna and inna. Ala kulli, ala is on, kulle is everything, shay is thing, Qadir is having power. So God has power over all things. It's a simple translation. Or indeed, inna is indeed. Indeed, God has power over all things. Wa and aqimu, establish. As-salah, the prayer. Wa and atu is pay. Az-zakat is zakat. Wa and ma, that. Tuqaddimu, you sent forward, لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, for your souls, min khairin, from among good, tajiduhu, you will find it, in the law, with God. So idiomatically we'll say that whatever good you sent forward for yourselves, you will find it with God. That's the sense. Which means that everything that you do here will be in God's notice. It will be with Him. You'll find it with Him. Tajduhu in the law. It will be with Him. Inna Allaha bima ta'maluna basir. Inna is indeed. Allah is Allah. Again, you can see how it is in the accusative. The word accusative means that the word is in the nasabi condition or the nasabi state, which means that it will always be declined with a zabar. Be ma is with ta'malun, what you do. Basir, knows. So indeed, God knows what you do. He is watching. In fact, basir is to watch, is to observe. So indeed, God is observing what you do. It's not that He does not know what you do. The minutest things is in His notice. وَقَالُوا لَنْ يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارَى. وَقَالُوا, wa is and, qalu, they said. Lan is never. So just as the word lam is a particle of negation, the word lan is also a particle of negation. The only difference is that the lam relates to the past mostly, but the lan is always related to the future. So qalu lan yadkhula would mean, yadkhula means enter. Al-Jannah is paradise. So idiomatically we can say, and they said, certainly not enter paradise. So if you add the word certainly to not, that will add that emphasis that is needed to translate the word lan. So waqalu lan yadkhula, when you join the word lan with yadkhula, you'll not pronounce it separately, but it will get amalgamated. So the pronunciation would be waqalu lan yadkhula. Waqalu, not lan yadkhula, but qalu lan yadkhula al-jannah illa, except. So illa is the particle of exception. Illa, except. Man, he. Kana is Hudan. Hudan is Jew. Aw or Nasara is Nazarene or Christian. So the translation would be, and they said, certainly not enter paradise except he who is a Jew or a Nazarene or a Christian. So they said, who are they? The people of the book. So the people of the book said that no one except a Jew or a Christian will enter paradise. Lan yadkhul al-jannah illa man kana hudan aw nasara. Tilka, these are amaniyuhum, their desires. Amaniya is the plural of umniya. So umniya is a desire and amaniya is its plural. Hum is there. So tilka amaniyuhum would mean these are their desires. Qul, say, hatu, bring, burhanakum, your argument, your proof. Burhan is proof, kum is your. So bring forth your proof in if kuntum, you are sadiqeen, truthful. So bring forth your proof if you are truthful. Bala, indeed. Man, he who, aslama, submitted. Wajhahu, his face. Lillah, to God. Wa, and. Huwa, he. Muhsin, someone who is befitting, who is all the while righteous. Falahu, fa, therefore, la, for who, him. Therefore, for him, ajruhu. So ajr is reward, who is his. Inda rabbihi, with his God, with his Lord. So indeed, he who submitted his face towards God, of course referring to the fact who submitted himself towards God, wahuwa muhsin, in the situation that he was also very righteous. Falahu, for him, ajruhu, his reward is with his Lord. So for such a person, his reward is with his Lord. Rabbihi is his Lord. Wa, and la, not. Khawf is fear. Alayhim, on them. Wa, not. La, wa and la, not. Hum, they. Yahzanun, sorrowful or sad. So there shall be no fear on them. Wala khawfun alayhim, and there shall be no fear on them. Wala hum, and they will not. Yahzanun, sorrowful, and they will not be sorrowful. وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ لَيْسَتِ النَّصَارَى عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Wa and qalat. Qalat is exactly the same as qala. The only thing is that it is used when there is a feminine gender, or either through word or through its own system in which the noun which follows is feminine. So the word Yahud in Arabic is a feminine gender. So collective nouns are usually feminine. So there's no difference between qala and qalat, except qala is used for masculine and qalat is for feminine. So waqalat al-Yahud would mean, and the Jews said. Waqalat al-Yahud, and the Jews said. Laysat, not. Laysat is again a particle of negation, not. An-Nasara, Nazarenes or Christians, ala, on, shay, anything. So idiomatically we can say, and the Jews said that the Nazarenes are not on anything, meaning they are without any basis. They don't have any basis. وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى, and the Nazarenes said, لَيْسَتِ الْيَهُودُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Yani, it's just the question of saying those things once again. So the Jews said that the Christians have no basis, and the Christians said that the Jews have no basis. وَهُمْ يَتْلُونَ الْكِتَابِ, wa, and hum, they, yatluna, recite, al-kitab, the book. So idiomatically we can say, and they are the people who recite the book. Kazalika, in this way. Qala, said, allazina, those who, la, not, ya'lamuna, no, mithla qawlihim, the way they gave their statement. So kazalika qala allazina la ya'lamuna mithla qawlihim would mean, and in a similar way said those people who do not know. What did they say? Something very similar. Misla qawlihim. Misla is like. Qawlihim, their statement. So those who do not know gave a similar statement. And just as the word al-mushrikun is used for the idolaters, you'll find that this again is a usage of the Quran in which la ya'lamun is also referring to the idolaters, in the sense that they were not aware of any book of God being given to them. So they were not conversant with the book of God. So they are also called ummiyin, or people who do not know, in the sense that it is used here, la ya'lamun, meaning that they are not aware of any book of God. So although the book is not mentioned here, but this is again an insinuation of the Quran, a very special style of the Quran in which it just refers to this fact that these people who do not know, referring to the fact that they are people who do not know God's guidance from any book. And who are they? These are the Ishmaelites, because they never received any book from God after Abraham. So this is actually la ya'lamun is referring to the Ishmaelites. So kazalika qala allazina la ya'lamuna misla qawlihim would mean, and these idolaters also gave a similar statement to what they said. And fallahu yahkumu bainahum, fa, therefore Allah yahkumu, decides, bainahum, between them, yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of judgment, fima, in it, fi is in, ma kanu, what they, fihe, in it, yakhtalifun, are differing. So therefore God is going to decide between them on the day of judgment in that in which they are differing. And I have referred to this before, that this verse also comes at a number of places in the Quran, which also tells us that there are some differences which only God will resolve the day of judgment. And so therefore we also need to stand close to the statement that a lot of things we might be able to resolve between the Abrahamic religions, but it does seem that there are a few things that we might not be able to resolve, because God says that such are the nature of these differences, so grave are they that only I'll be able to resolve them. So فَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فِيمَا كَانُوا فِيهِ يَخْتَلِفُونَ. Whatever they are differing in, Allah is going to decide between them on the day of judgment. On the day of judgment. Not in this world, but on the day of judgment. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ مَنَعَ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ أَنْ يُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ وَسَعَى فِي خَرَابِهَا. Wa, and man, who, azlamu, more oppressive, mimman, from him, manara, who stopped, masajidullah, mosques of God. And what did he stop? An, that, yuzkara, remembered, fiha, in it, ismuhu, his name. So who can be more unjust, who can be more oppressive than the person who stopped that the name of God be taken in his mosques? Wasa'a, wa, and sa'a, tried, fi, in kharabeha, its desolation, that they are not attended, that mosques go absolutely without people and they are just stopped from coming there. So actually the verse says that who is more unjust, who is more oppressive than the person who stops the name of God be taken in the mosques of God, and wasara fi kharabiha. Wasara fi kharabiha means and who is after their desolation. Who's after their desolation. Wasara strives, struggles, fi in kharabiha, desolation, ha there. Ulaika, they are. Ma kana lahum. Ulaika ma kana lahum. Ulaika would mean and ma kana lahum, not were for them an yadkhuluha, that they entered. Yadkhulu, entered, ha, that thing, the mosque of course, illa, except, khaifin, in a way that they fear God. So the fact is, ulaika ma kana lahum an yadkhuluha illa khaifin. This is a very special style of Arabic. When it is said ma kana lahum, it actually means it is not befitting. Something which is not befitting. So ulaika ma kana lahum would mean this is something which is not befitting for them. And what is that? An yadkhuluha, except an yadkhuluha illa khaifin, that they entered these mosques except in a state of fear. So what is being said is that look at these people, they are stopping the name of God being taken in his mosques, whereas the situation was that they should have entered those mosques fearing God. Ma kana yadkhuluha illa khaifin. It was not befitting for them except to enter these places from which they are stopping the name of God to be taken. Look at the irony. They should have gone there, and they should have gone there in a state that they feared God. Lahum fid dunya khizyun wa lahum fil akhirati azabun azim. Again, that rebuke, that scolding that you can see is so telling in this verse. Lahum, for them, fi in ad-dunya, this world, khizyun, humiliation, wa, and lahum, for them, fi in al-akhirah, day of judgment or the hereafter, azabun azim, great torment. So these are the people about whom the verdict is lahum fid dunya khizyun. For them there is humiliation in this world, and for them in the hereafter there is great torment. Wa, and lillahi, for God, al-mashriq, the east, wa, and al-maghrib, the west. Walillahi al-mashriq wal-maghrib would mean and the east and the west are for God, or in fact it means they belong to God. God is the owner of the east and the west. Again, this is a style of the Quran you'll encounter at a number of places, which means that the dominion which spreads from the east to the west, it belongs to God. I mean, humanly we cannot imagine something which is beyond east or which is beyond west. So everything which is to the east of us and everything which is the west of us is something which belongs to God. It embraces everything and saying that everything belongs to God. فَأَيْنَمَا, so fa, therefore, aynama, wherever, tuwallu means you face, fasamma, you will find, wajhu, face, Allah, God. So wherever you face, you will find the face of God. Fa'aynama tuwallu, wherever you face, wherever you turn to, fasamma, you will find wajhullah, God's face or the countenance of God. Inna, indeed, Allah, indeed God. Wasi' means vast. Aleem means knowing. So indeed, God is very vast and all-knowing. So we're just about to reach the end. Some more verses left. وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا سُبْحَانَهُ بَل لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلٌّ لَهُ قَانِتُونَ. وَقَالُوا, and they said, اتَّخَذَ Allah would mean God has walada, a son. Subhanahu would be exalted is God, exalted is He. Bal lahu ma fis samawati wal ard. Bal is in fact, lahu, for him, ma, what, fi, in, as-samawat, heavens, wa, and, ard is earth. Kullun, everything, lahu, for him, qanitun means obedient. So, and they said that God has a son, God has a child. And they said that God has a child. Subhanahu. You'll find this word also occurring in the Quran. Just as a comment, Subhanahu would mean exalted is He. What nonsense are they saying? He is exalted of these ascriptions. Subhanahu. Ballahu ma fis samawati wal ard. He does not need a child. Everything which is in the heavens and the earth belongs to Him. Kullullahu qanitun. Everything is obedient to Him. Badir samawati wal ard. Badir is creating something out of nothingness. So ibdar or badi is a special word of the Quran. It is always used or generally used with God. And for every one of us, we need something to create. When we create something, we need something out of which we create something. But for God, He doesn't need anything. Badi'ur samawat means He makes the heavens on the earth. He originates the heavens on the earth from nothingness. So Badi'ur samawat would mean to create the heavens and the earth from nothingness. I mean, this is something that we cannot imagine. But this is what God, He is someone who will create anything out of nothing. So ibda means to create something out of nothing. Badi'us samawati wal ard, He creates the heavens and the earth out of nothing. Wa iza qadha amran fa innama yaqulu lahu kun fayakun. And this is how He does it. And what is it? Wa and iza, when qadha, He decides, amran, a thing, a matter. Fa innama, He only yaqulu, says, lahu, to it, kun, be, fayakun, and it is. So He doesn't need any substance to create anything. He creates out of nothingness. And how does it do so? He only says be, and it is, which means all that He needs to say is a command that, okay, come into being. And whatever He wants to come into being, it comes into being. Iza qaza, qaza means decide, amran means a matter. So whenever He decides a matter, fa innama, He only, yaqulu, says, lahu, to it, kun, be, and it is. وقال الذين لا يعلمون لولا يكلمنا الله أو تأتينا آية كذلك قال الذين من قبلهم مثل قولهم تشابهت قلوبهم قد بينا الآيات لقوم يوقنون. And قال said, الذين, those who, la, not, يعلمون, not know. So remember, I just discussed this word that la ya'lamun is often used for the al-mushrikun because they were not conversant with any book of God. So the word la ya'lamun became consistent with them that they are not aware of any divine guidance. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, if I translate it by saying that the Ishmaelites said, or وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, or people who did not know said, referring to the fact that these Ummiyin, these Ishmaelites, they said, and what did they say? لَوْ لَا يُكَلِّمُنَ اللَّهُ. Law is why, la, not. Yukallimuna, speaks to us. Allah, God. So these mushrikun also said, just as Moses, those Israelites demanded that they would like to observe God, it is said that they also made a similar demand. And what was that? Laula yukallimun Allah. Why doesn't God converse with us? Aw, or ta'tina, He brings to us ayah, a sign. And then it is said, kazalika, in this way, قال الذين من قبلهم مثل قولهم. قال الذين, said الذين, those who من قبلهم, before that, مثل قولهم, what they said. Exactly, they made the same demand. Remember, the words were, أم تريدون أن تسألوا رسولكم كما سئل موسى من قبل. Would you like to ask the same questions which the people of Moses asked from Moses? And this is an example that they also asked that God should converse with us or bring us a sign. Again, it is said here once again that people who do not know, they also made a similar demand, the Ishmaelites. And what did they say? Laula yukallimun Allah. Why doesn't God, yukallimun Allah, talk to us? Yukallimun Allah, talk to us. Aw ta'tina ayah, or brings us a sign. Kazalika qala allazina min qablihim. In this way said those who before him, misla qawlihim, what they said. Tashabahat qulubuhum. Tashabahat became similar. Qulubuhum, their hearts. So because they are asking the same question, the Quran has commented on this way, their hearts are the same. Their hearts have become virtually the same because they are asking the same questions. Kad bayyanna, in fact, bayyanna, we have made evident. Al-ayat, ayat is the plural of ayah, which means verses. Liqawmin, for the nation, for the people. Yuqinun, who have conviction. So we have made evident are signs or signs for those who have conviction. Inna, indeed we, arsalnaka, sent you. Of course, you is referring to the Prophet Muhammad. Indeed, we sent you, arsalnaka, bil haq, with the truth, bashiran, as a giver of good tidings, wa and, nazira, as a warner, wa and, la not, tus'alu, you will be asked, an, about, ashab, companions, al-jahim, hell. So, we have sent you forth with the truth as a giver of good tidings and as a warner. Bashiran aw nazira. Wa and la tus'alu an ashabil jahim. You shall not be asked about these people of hell. Which other words is a consolation to the Prophet that all that you need to do is to deliver your message. You warn them, you give them glad tidings. And then whatever fate they encounter is something you leave to them. You will not be asked about them. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to just deliver the message and to give glad tidings and to give warnings. وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَن نَصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. Wa and. So lan, once again, as I just said, is again a particle of negation and it is meant for the future. So just as lam is for the past, lan is for the future. وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ. Wa and lan, not. Or certainly not, I mean, just to add emphasis, tarda, they'll become happy. They will become pleased with you. Tarda, pleased. Anka, from you. Al-Yahud, the Jews. So the Jews will never be happy with you. Walan tarda anka al-Yahud, the Jews will never be happy with you. Walan Nasara, and neither the Nazarenes and neither the Christians. So neither the Jews nor the Christians will ever be happy with you. Hatta, until, tattabi'a, you follow, millatahum, their religion. So the Jews and the Christians will not be happy with you until you follow their religion. Hatta tattabi'a millatahum. Qul inna hudallahi huwal huda. So this is a parenthetical sentence, and I've already discussed this elsewhere, that a parenthetical sentence is an on-the-spot comment on the previous verse, and the discourse is linked before and after. So hatta tattabi'a millatahum and wal ittaba'ta are connected. This is an in-between insertion. This is like an on-the-spot comment, and this is usually a rebuke expressed from God, and you can clearly say that the Almighty is telling the Prophet to tell them, Kul, inna, indeed, huda, guidance, or hudallah is God's guidance, huwal huda, that, al-huda, the real guidance. So remember, they were saying that unless you become Jews and Christians, they will not become happy with you. And there is an on-the-spot insertion by God, and that is that tell them, O Prophet, that the real guidance is God's guidance. It's not that you become Jew or Christian. It is God's guidance which is the real guidance. So this is like an on-the-spot insertion. And now the discourse is connected to millatahum, which means wa and la in ittaba'ta, if you follow, ittaba'ta, you follow, ahwa'ahum, their desires, ba'da, after, allazi, that, ja'aka, comes to you, minal ilm, from knowledge, ma, not, laka, for you, minallahi, from God, min waliyin, any friend, wa, and la, not, nasir, helper. We've already seen this verse earlier on. So if you follow their desires, while ilittaba'ta ahwa'ahum, the Prophet is being told, and remember we've discussed this already, that when such a harsh verse is apparently addressed to the Prophet, it is not exactly being addressed to him. It is through him that the disbelievers are being addressed. It is like not being addressed, they're not being addressed directly. The Prophet is being addressed, and the direction of address is towards the disbelievers. So the Prophet is being told that that if you follow their desires, after knowledge has come to you, referring to the Quran, after the Quran has come to you, then there shall be no one who is your friend or who is your helper. Giving this message to the disbelievers that even the Prophet is not going to find any helper or any friend if he follows their desires, which means the desires of the disbelievers. And now it says, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. This is the last verse. It says, الَّذِينَ they who آتَيْنَاهُمْ we gave them al-kitab the book yatlunahu they recite it haqqa tilawatihi the way it should be recited. So idiomatically we can translate it as they whom we gave the book, they recite it the way it should be recited. In other words, they recite it in a very befitting manner, in the way they should actually reflect upon it, they deliberate upon it, they fully understand what they are saying and what they are reciting. So the Quran says, Ulaika, it is they, yu'minuna, profess faith, bihi in it. What is in it? In the Quran. So what is being said here is that those of these Jews and Christians who really read their own book the way it is ought to be read, the way the Torah is ought to be read, the way the Gospels are ought to be read. If they really understand their own book, ulaika yu'minuna bihi, they are going to believe in this book also, this Quran. Ulaika yu'minuna bihi, in this Quran. And then وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Wa and man, he who yakfur, disbelieves or rejects, bihi, it, فَأُولَٰئِكَ, it is they, who they are indeed, al-khasirun, who are in loss. And those who reject this book, then they are the people who are in loss. So in other words, the good and the true people of the book are the ones who are going to believe in it, who are going to believe in the Quran because they are waiting for this Quran as per their own books. However, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ, the ones who are going to reject it, they are the ones who will end up in loss. So today we just finished the section that we have studied already. And now if you have any questions regarding what we have studied as far, including the literal translation and the idiomatic translation, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Shehzad, for another brilliant lesson. We received a message in chat that inquires in the ayah that begins with ma nasakh. So what does ma stand for? Does it stand for whatever?
Whatever. Ma nansakh min ayatin. Whatever verse, it's not I think I wrongly translated if the person is referring to that. It's not a particle of negation. It's whatever. Whatever verse we abrogate. So ma nansakh min ayatin is whatever verse we abrogate.
So I have two questions. One more related to tafsir. This statement, I think you had mentioned it last week. It says, similarly, those who have no knowledge of the book of God had said something else, and God makes the statement again, a similar demand was made by those before them. Their hearts are alike. I kind of feel like the stress in these sections is that the Quran is basically saying that the Jews and the Christians, because of their attitude with respect to their prophets, they have actually become like the idolaters. So that's actually what this stress seems to be, that they claim to be guided, but they have become more like the idolaters than actually true believers.
In this respect. Yeah.
In this respect. And I think one of the things is this allusion also to the fact that God Almighty, he mentions that they have made the masjid desolate. I feel also that because God raises it later anyways, that issue about the Qibla, it almost seems like God is saying that these Jews and Christians are actually like the idolaters who have actually expelled the Muslims from Mecca. And they have themselves have not let them, they have made the masjid of God itself desolate. So it seems like God is actually saying that these Jews and Christians are actually like these idolaters and are behaving the same way. Is that?
Well, actually, although that's true in its own sense, but I don't think it is implied here. Because you see, we have already discussed earlier on in these verses that they had their own differences amongst themselves, and they would seem one, but they would have severe differences with one another. They would not acknowledge one another, as these verses say, that قالت اليهود ليست النصارى على شيء, that the Jews would not regard Christians to be of any worth, and vice versa. So basically it's a discussion going on between them, because they were the people who had caused this disruption and desolation of the temple, in which we have just read earlier on that one of them made the west side as the Qibla, and one of them made the east side as the Qibla. And as a result, when these things happened, there were so many wars that took place, as a result of which the temple was closed down and people were not able to come to the mosque. And so it's basically referring to their own attitude. However, of course, it is correct that what these people, these idolaters did was something similar as well. But the words that you have just quoted says tashabahat qulubuhum, that they are in reference to the fact that laula yukallimunallahu aw ta'tina aya, that they wanted God to converse with them or to bring them a sign. And in this matter, the Quran says they have become similar to the Jews and Christians because they also wanted God to converse with them.
So do you think it's more like the Quran is saying that, like, you Muslims are, well, I guess in one way it's saying that you Muslims, you're impressed with them, or these weak Muslims, you're impressed with them, but they've actually become like the mushrikun who are making these silly demands, even though these are people of the scripture and they're actually acting more like them.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And then the second point I have is, sometimes, in idiomatic translation, for example, when you say whoever submits their face to God, right? And then, there's idiomatic and then there's literal. How do we sometimes, because, face, I think, because some commentators say face, right? The Arabs use it for personality. But I think, sometimes you talk about idiomatically, but I think face is more expressive because, it's the face that, shows God's displeasure and, displeasure and pleasure. So sometimes we have a situation where, okay, this is actually more personal to the audience of the Quran that really know the language. Like, how do we say, like, okay, this is actually what it's referring to, and that subtlety, for example, that subtlety where I say, okay, the face of your Lord, that means something like God's pleasure. We're saying God's pleasure because the face expresses pleasure. But sometimes in idiomatic translation or literal translation, people would just say, the direction of God or something like that. So how do we distinguish, like, for example, like getting closer to how the Arabs understood it as opposed to...
So you see, basically, you have to understand that in all respects, it cannot be translated literally. It is metaphorical in all respects. So you're not talking about the face of God in any case. So one thing is settled, and most of except there are certain commentators who have brought the face of God into discussion as well, but let's leave them aside because I think they are in a minority. So most of our commentators, I think they have rightly translated this verse in the metaphorical sense, meaning that whether you face the west or whether you face the east, that is immaterial. You'll find the countenance of God, you'll find the person of God to be there. He is not confined in our space and time. So basically it is God being talked about, not his face, literally. And at times, the reason that you use this metaphorically is because the face, of course, is something which represents your personality. So that could be another discussion etymologically, that why is it the face or the word wajh is used. But other than that, as I said, whatever the reason, it is basically a metaphorical usage, and that metaphorical usage is pointing to the person of God, not the person of God per se, but to the fact that he is, wherever you face, you'll find God there. It's like saying you'll find God himself there. So the verse could have been فَإِنَّمَا تَوَلُّوا فَسَمَّ اللَّهِ. For example, the word wajh could have been suppressed, and the verse would have read that wherever you face, you'll find God. So that would have been, that is the sense which is being conveyed. The only thing that the word wajh is adding here is the fact that, the person of God is being pointed out, that don't confine him to the east or the west as they had done. And that is not what he wants. He's everywhere. It's like he's wherever you face, you'll find him there. So facing the Qibla is just a question of direction. And you have made God, you have confined him into that direction, right? And that is not the case. In fact, the real thing is to face God wherever he tells you to face him.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Dr. Sir, the ayah 18 is the tashabahat qulubuhum. Is it
Yes.
the mushrik or Jews, or it is the Jews and Christian? Is it two groups, or there are all three groups being addressed
Yes.
here?
These are the people of the book and the idolaters. People of the book, they also made the same demand, and the idolaters or the mushrikun, they also made the same demand. So these are the two groups which are being said here, that their hearts have become similar.
So they are all three groups, right? Christians is included.
Yes, because Jews and Christians are grouped as one. They are one group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mariam, you may have your question now.
Thank you, Naji. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. So with ayah 104, where Allah says, "La taqulu ra'ina wa qulu burna," in in some of my classes, we've been taught that even if we have discussions and we want to disagree with someone, we always start the sentence with yes and, or like generally when we're speaking, we go yes and, so that we don't offend the other person. I wonder, is Allah like trying to sound unoffensive to the mu'mineen because that's the people that he's trying to talk to?
Actually, if you're there in our previous session, I had said that basically this word was twisted by the people of the book, and they would pronounce it as ra'ina, which means our shepherd. So just as the word ra'ina means please repeat this, or have concession to us, or pardon us, so they would twist this word. They would lay more stress on the word ain, and instead of pronouncing it as ra'ina, they would say ra'ina. So ra'ina is would mean our shepherd, and in this way they would try to demean the Prophet. So what the Almighty is telling the Muslims is that you change the word. Don't say ra'ina, say unzurna, because both words mean the same. So just leave this word, because they are going to twist this word, and they are twisting this word and using it to demean the Prophet. So instead of using ra'ina, start using unzurna.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. I heard that part when you were speaking about it, but I just thought because the mu'mineen, even if they would say ra'ina, they wouldn't say it with bad intentions like the mushrikeen.
So they would not say that, of course.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
So they didn't say this, but when the people of the book came in the same to the same gathering, they would use the same word, but they would add stress to the word and they would say ra'ina. So Muslims and believers would just say ra'ina, but these pranksters or mischief mongers, they would come and just play this prank by elongating that word in the sense that they would say ra'ina. So what the Almighty is telling Muslims is that just change the word so that these people are not given an opportunity to twist it.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Saleem.